thanks to State Representative Jim Struzzi for joining us this morning as well. Our conversation is brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Representative Struzzi, good morning.
Good morning, Todd.
You are a busy guy, and everybody in the legislature is right now. Coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, it will be the Senate Appropriations and Education Committees holding a hearing on the state system of higher education and the redesign. You, yesterday, released a letter, an op-ed type of thing that we posted on our website this morning, with your thoughts on the state system redesign and on what you very clearly emphasize is a whole different issue, and that is retrenchment and all of the surrounding stories with that at IUP. And it was an interesting letter and some interesting points made as well. And that was the main one that I took out of it is we're talking two different issues here, aren't we, when we talk redesign and retrenchment?
Well, we absolutely are, and I wanted to make sure people understood that. I'm a member of the PASHE caucus within the House of Representatives, and we are representatives that either have a state school in our district or, have some relation to a state school or, perhaps a graduate or along those lines. But we all have a keen interest in the state system and preserving the state system. And I obviously have a very specific interest in protecting IUP. And so we have been in numerous meetings with the Chancellor, with APSCUF, with AFSCME, with different administration professionals, discussing the state system redesign for many, many months now since the Chancellor first proposed it. And unfortunately, I think when Act 50 came out, a lot of people confused the redesign with the retrenchments that were occurring at IUP and at other state schools around the Commonwealth. Those are two separate issues. The Chancellor and the Board of Governors, as I outlined in the letter, came up with a financial sustainability plan, which was supposed to be a 5-year plan to align student-faculty ratios to basically control expenditures. And what happened, unfortunately, they accelerated that timeline. And this is information that I just learned recently through my discussions with Dr. Jamie Martin, who is the president of AFSCUF. Her and I had a very good conversation, a one-on-one conversation last week. And so I think that, unfortunately, a lot of people in the public connected these two things for whatever reason last year. And that my concern, as I again mentioned in the letter, was that people are going to automatically condemn the redesign because they think it is causing these retrenchments, and that is simply not the case. So I wanted that to be clear. And unfortunately, by accelerating that timeline from 5 years to 2 years, we saw the retrenchments that occurred at IUP. And I do think IUP took a lot of the brunt when that may not have entirely been necessary. And I did have a discussion with Dr. Driscoll on that yesterday. And the good news, I guess, if there is good news, Todd, as I also mentioned in the letter, was, that through early retirements and other incentives, they have reduced the number of necessary retrenchments, at least at this point, down to around 30 faculty members. And then, obviously, as you lose faculty members, you're going to lose administrative support. And that's where the 40 other positions come in.
One of the other issues or points that you make is, in the course of the letter, something that Senator Pittman was talking about earlier in the hearings with Chancellor Greenstein, and that is the fact that a lot of the universities that normally would have nice, full black lines at the bottom of their profit and loss statement have red lines because they're propping up some universities that just aren't doing it, and IUP is one of those.
And those numbers are quite alarming. Unfortunately, they have not been released to the public, and that's kind of what prompted me to issue the letter as well. I've been working on this actually for several weeks now after some discussions with the Chancellor, and we had a look at some of those real numbers. And when you actually look at the numbers, you see the dire state of the state system. The universities like IUP and Westchester and some of those ones that do very well are sending millions of dollars to these other universities to subsidize them, to basically keep them afloat. And that's not working. That is putting IUP in the precarious position that it's in. And so that is why the system redesign in some form or fashion is so vital to maintaining the state systems for the survivability of the state system. That's what I think people need to realize. That's why I wanted to draw a clear distinction between the retrenchments and the redesign, because we're talking the long-term picture here, Todd, and I hope people understand that I'm fighting for IUP. I'm fighting for the overall state system, but my concern is IUP, and I want to make sure that IUP is as strong as it can be, that we maintain as many jobs as we can, and we get back to those enrollment numbers that made us strong. And we can only do that by fixing the state system, by getting these universities that are in the red back into the black, and the system redesign is designed to do that. But that's what we have to look at, and that's the long game is what we're after here.
I know that AppScuff is looking with a rather dubious eye at the redesign, and so are some lawmakers. And I know that for you and for Senator Pittman, there are some points in there that are very salient points that really need to be made and steps that need to be taken. Not altogether comfortable with every step, though, are we?
Well, no, certainly not. These are hard decisions, but unfortunately some of these decisions have to be made, and we have to look at reality. Student enrollments are down. Hard decisions do have to be made, and there are a number of questions. That's why the proposal was just put out there. As I said in my discussions with AppScuff, with Dr. Martin, they have a lot of questions too. We all have a lot of questions. That's why the Senate's going to have their hearing today. We have a policy committee hearing with the Chancellor on Monday in Harrisburg that I will be at. We will have numerous meetings as we go through the course of these 2 months for public comment. But I encourage everyone who's listening, everyone in the Indiana community and the IUP community to study the state system redesign, to fully understand what it means for IUP, because I do think long term there are positives that will come to Indiana, that will come to IUP through the state system redesign. I think in the long run you'll see faculty numbers increase, you'll see student enrollments increase here locally, because the system itself will be stronger and they will be able to craft curriculum that meets the workforce needs of the future. And really a fresh look is what is needed, and that's the path that we're going down.
Absolutely. Now, as you think about it, and as I know that you're actually on your way for another meeting on another topic, and that is Reggie this morning, the hearing that is going to be held here at 10 o'clock is going to be something that is available not only live on the Senate website, but also will be archived so people can watch it anytime. But that's a really good step for educating yourself on what this redesign is going to do, is to watch the people who are involved in it actually discussing it, and the questions that we might not think of that others will. And in this case, the Chancellor, anybody else that's with him, is going to have a chance to really open up and let us know, well, what are we reading here? What is going to happen there? And so that educational effort, that's a really good opportunity.
Sure. I absolutely encourage people to tune in, as I do to any public hearing we have on any subject in Harrisburg, because that's where we dig into these issues. That's where we ask the hard questions, and we need those answers. It's very hard to support or be against any issue unless you fully understand it. And I did in my letter include some of the links that PASHE has put out on the state system redesign. There's a lot of good information on their website that you can go to, look at these plans, try to understand them on your own. But I think the main point of the letter that I issued, the statement yesterday, Todd, was don't jump to conclusions. Understand that the retrenchments and the redesign are two different things, and that, educate yourself before you make a decision. Don't just trust what you see on social media or in conversations. Make your own opinion and base that on facts.
One of the things we also need to emphasize is you've had conversations both with AppScuff and with Ask Me, which is the union representing the administrative workers, some of the other workers at IUP. They're suffering from furloughs as well. So whether you're calling it retrenchment or furloughs, those are right. Union members whose jobs are going to be affected by what's going on. In your conversations with them and with Dr. Martin, of course, the head of AppScuff being based at IUP, how, I don't want to say how accepting of it, because obviously you don't want to accept it, but how are they looking at it in terms of, let's find a different solution, let's see if we can maybe find a more accommodating way to avoid further retrenchments?
Well, I think that the best thing we can do is to try and work together in communication, in partnership, to try and help these people find other positions, even within the state system. I have asked the Department of Labor and Industry to work with those individuals who are being furloughed, to try and find them other employment here in Indiana County. We don't want to see anybody lose their jobs, obviously. But as has been said previously, in any business model, if your customer base is down, you have to make cuts somewhere, and that's essentially a nutshell of what has occurred. But unfortunately, with the accelerated timeline from 5 years to 2 years, I think that's what will cause the gut reaction that we saw from a lot of people. But I'm committed to working with AppScuff, to working with IUP, to working with the Chancellor, to do everything we can to try and minimize these job losses, but in the end, make sure that the state system and IUP are strong and sustainable.
I wanted to get you on today to talk about this in the wake of the letter and all the news having to do with the state system today. You'll be back with us for your regular visit next week, and we'll have a lot to talk about then. But, Jim, I just got this breaking news that came in from the folks at IRMC telling us that they don't have a whole bunch of people scheduled today to get vaccines at the KCAC. So starting right now and until later this afternoon, I think 4:30 this afternoon, anybody can stop in. Anybody can get their COVID-19 vaccine. No appointment necessary. Stop by and get your shot. I know that's something you'd support, huh?
Absolutely. This is at the KCAC?
Yeah.
I may be stopping there myself, Todd.
Everybody is eligible today. No appointment necessary. Head on out to the KCAC and get your shot. Representative Jim Struzzi, I know that you're on your way to a very important meeting, so thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to visit with us.
Absolutely, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160